everybody.
Good evening, everyone. We are excited. We've got, this is our Iowa chapter meeting, but it's a CSTA engaged. So we also have educators from around the state. So Iowa people, we get to be great hosts today and meet some new folks and share some of our ideas. Samantha put in the chat, since we do have extra people joining us, please share where you're from and your role. Give everyone a minute or two and then we'll get us started.
Hi, Henry. Good to see you. And Jason. There's Henry.
I feel like we need music. Sorry, everybody, we didn't cue that.
Da, 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 da. I'm not gonna try. Song and dance.
For those of you that are just coming in, we're all just taking a second to introduce ourselves. We've got people all around the country joining in today. So take a minute and just let us know.
We are excited in Iowa because it's finally nice. We've had like really terrible weather. Gross. So hopefully weather is nice where you are. We haven't made it out of winter yet.
Few southern folks that I'm sure have nice, warm, hot weather at this point. Yeah. Henry, I think we made it to 70 today.
We did.
It was big. Felt wonderful.
Yes, welcome from New York.
We'd have to make a map and put pins on it. Be fun.
Oh, that would be fun.
Mm-hmm. And Jeff, that's us tomorrow. We get today, and then tomorrow is loads of rain, back to the 50s and 40s.
Got our one day.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here today. If you just joined us, I am Allison Moore. I am on the CSTA Leadership Board. We're excited to have all of you here. We've got a mixture of our Iowa CSTA chapter, as well as others from CSTA Engage joining us from around the country. So an awesome, good mix of people being able to share today. Our plan for today is we are going to be looking at the Standards Audit tool, which is a tool that our districts use when they're reviewing the CSTA standards and trying to determine what standards are they covering, how are they doing it, where is it happening, just giving them some organization to be able to do that. We have an awesome panel here with us. So Heather and Peggy are going to be sharing some about what they do in their district and how they are able to implement as well. And then Gretchen is going to be joining us shortly. So see another person pop in and sharing about her experience. We're happy to have her as well. I'm going to turn it over to Corey, and she's going to give us a brief intro on the template and what it looks like.
Great. Hi, everybody. I'm Corey Rogers. I'm the CSTA Iowa president, and I have the pleasure of getting to work with Heather and Peggy. I also have the opportunity to help districts unpack standards. So in Iowa, all districts have to have a K-12 computer science plan by July. And so many of our districts are going through the CS for All script process, if you're familiar with that. And one of the things that comes up immediately for district teams is they go, we need to know the standards. And then we need to know what's getting taught already that we can celebrate, but then also have an idea of where our gaps are so we can make a plan to address them. And so the tool that you see right here is a tool that our statewide team of computer science support that includes Samantha and Allison, and then AEA folks like me that serve regional groups of districts came up with this tool. And I believe that Samantha is going to put a link in the chat if you want to get a copy of that for yourself. Thanks, Samantha. So what we did is, if you notice across the bottom, there's a tab for the grade banded standards. And then what we invite districts to do is make this their own, but what we ask them to think about for the different concept areas and then sub-concept areas are What are some evidence or examples of computer science in action? So sometimes this looks like we read the Hello Ruby book and we do activities with the Bbot, or sometimes it's that we use code.org. So, or maybe it's we already teach this in math class. So districts kind of record evidence and examples. In Iowa, districts are asked to think about if the instructional format is standalone, like in an elective or in a high school course, if it's integrated into concept areas, or if it's some sort of a combination. So in Iowa, what we're seeing, especially in elementary school, is it might be integrated into math, and then teacher librarians like Heather might be doing some direct instruction. And so that's what that would mean. We help districts with this current rating scale to kind of think about, are they already meeting, or is they not meeting it, but it's easy to add. And then there's conditional formatting, because my love language are spreadsheets. And so I like some conditional formatting in there. And then there's columns to think about who teaches this, and then what building or buildings it might be happening in for our larger districts. One of our favorite things about this is it's really customizable. So one of the districts I get to work with, they've amended this because they've unpacked their standards. So this link here is a link to the unpacked standard for kids. And then they've decided, instead of having all that information I just showed you, that they customized their audit tool to have their student-friendly language targets, the vocabulary, their lesson plan ideas, and then they're trying to think about scope and sequence. So our standards being taught in kindergarten and first or in second grade. Marion, where Peggy is from, their district is kind of listing them by grade levels. So we worked with their PLC team leads to kind of do this. So you'll notice they have a lot of that same stuff. Their conditional formatting doesn't work because we broke it. Corey hasn't had time to fix it, but we'll get it fixed. And then they're doing kind of something similar. So who's teaching this, and then which grade levels? And then finally at Heather's district, they call this the pretty chart. I love them. They've given it a name. So because of all those colors, it's the pretty chart. And so you'll see they've also done things like, do they need to unpack it? Their current status is here. And then as you kind of scroll through, you can see where things are being taught, but then where gaps are. So in my work coaching district teams, it's a great tool to kind of help move them forward. So we thought it would be good to give you a little bit of background information. Before we turn it over to the panel, are there any questions for me about that template?
Oh, I can ask, where did you, how did you all decide on your standards?
Oh, that's a great question. So the state of Iowa adopted the CSTA standards wholesale. It's a celebration. I don't know about the rest of you from other states, but in Iowa, we adopted the NGSS standards, but with an Iowa twist. So we couldn't use any national resources. And so we're really grateful that Samantha was on a statewide team that kind of reviewed and then selected standards, and Iowa adopted CSTA standards. So we feel super fortunate for that. So that's why they might look familiar. It might look like the progression chart if you use those, because that's what we base this off of.
And Corey, Heather, and Peggy, this question is kind of for all three of you, but we did have a question in the chat. Is it all right if we share the links for teachers to go through your examples to preview those as well? Okay, we'll get those links to you as well. As we're going on tonight, feel free to chime in with other questions, either unmute and ask. We're pretty informal here, or put something in the chat and we'll work to make sure it gets answered as well. But with that, Heather and Peggy, we're going to turn it over to us talking about your work and how you went through this process. So to start us off, would you be able to share about how your district used this tool? Did you have teams completing it, or your computer science lead group, kind of a mixture? What did that process look like?
I can go first if you want me to. So we went to Grant Wood, I believe, and went with a team. So our team consisted the first time of myself as the K-4 librarian and technology coach, our high school, middle school librarian and technology coach, and our curriculum director as well. And we worked through looking at the standard or looking at the chart, and then starting very basic and figuring out where we were currently and figuring out where computer science is being taught at our school at all, and then figuring out who teaches it, and then reaching out to those people to say, okay, you teach computer science, but what parts of it do you teach, to figure out what was already being taught and what was already being met as according to the standards we have. That was kind of our baseline first step.
Our first step was kind of honestly talking with Corey and trying to figure out where we needed to go next. We started with the small computer science team, myself, and then teachers in the district that were already teaching some computer science. It might not be their full day, but definitely some computer science. So we have one teacher at the high school level, two at the middle school level, one is part-time, and then one at the 3rd and 4th grade level. And we were able to go through the audit tool a little bit through some of our script training, kind of see where we were at. And then the tool became pretty, and we need to revisit it a little bit more just to get some clarity in there. But we knew that our weakest area for computer science was likely the K2 level. And so in our school district, we have PLC coordinators. So each grade level has a team lead. And we brought those team leads together and generally basically started from scratch, an introduction to what computer science is and isn't, and kind of some activities to get them familiar with what Iowa's laws are going to be and expectations. And then we moved into the audit tool. And we are still in the process of completing that with our K2 group.
Awesome. Thank you both. We had a great question just pop up in the chat too about how Iowa standards work. So we do have a statewide adoption process. Like Corey said, kind of depends on the content for how that looks, because we do have a lot of district choice too. But so it is a statewide standard adoption. And then our legislation had passed a law that in Iowa, starting next year, all of the high schools will need to offer a computer science course and have a K-12 plan for how computer science is going to be taught. And then every kind of grade band level, so elementary, middle, and high school, also has to have a computer science taught. Corey's got a good synopsis of that in the chat as well. All right, Heather and Peggy, back to you. While you were going through this process and understanding that it's continuous process, what has gone well or not gone well?
At first,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. At first, it was super overwhelming, like looking at everything and saying, oh my gosh, we have to do all of that, and seeing just like sticker shock, basically. And so that was overwhelming at first, but then working through and breaking it down, realizing that, okay, we can focus on one section at a time, or like one little area, and say, okay, what do we do first? Or what do we already teach? Has helped to like relieve our stress and relieve it. That's not as scary as it seems. And then also working with our group, like being able to piggyback off each other and say what I do currently and explain it to them, and then helping me find where that fits and where we can place that inside the standards has helped a lot.
I would say one thing that has helped, or one thing to celebrate, is that our high school will be offering a couple more computer science courses next year, and they did fill up with high school registration, so that's super exciting. And we have an awesome teacher that just loves this area to teach those courses too, so that's excellent. I would say that along with this process, the middle school teachers who have been currently teaching some curriculum with computer science are really thinking about, is it the best thing that we can be doing to excite our students to further their computer science once they get to high school? So they're really thinking about how to improve. So that has also gone well. It's messy, but it's a good discussion. The fact that we've exposed our elementary K2 teachers, K4 teachers actually to the standards, and we're not like scrambling at the last minute to figure it out is good. One thing I would say that I have a little concern about is if when we go through the audit tool, we need to be careful that we're not just saying, yeah, we do cover it. I want to make sure that we are meeting the standard to our best of our ability. So that would be a concern that I have as we work through it.
That's one thing that's helped our middle school that we thought was teaching a lot of the standards. It's making them like look at those for those teachers and think, okay, yeah, I teach that, but could I change what I'm doing currently? Because it's right now they're just following their set curriculum they're used to. And this is helping to push them to think more outside of, okay, what else can you do? Or what else could you switch it and make to help challenge the students more?
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you. I was trying to go through our attendance and do we have administrators in here? I think we've got lots of coaches and teachers. But our next question is, why did you feel like it was important, or what are some strategies to involve administrators and get representatives from all of the different groups that you had helping?
We have our curriculum director came with us to our training to help break down the standards. And that has helped because she meets with the administrative team weekly. So she took what we were doing to the administrative team and told them what we're working on, how it's involved, and what process we're going through. And that has helped keep them up to date. That way they understand when we're gone and working on computer science standards, or when we are working on changing our curriculum, they know why it takes time to work on this and what we're working on, what purpose we have.
Well, for our K4, we have invited all 3 elementary principals to those meetings as well, so that they can gain an understanding of what is going to be in place for those grade bands, and just to observe the work and help with the work, because it takes all of us to make this happen, and the teachers need the support, and everybody needs to be aware that this is a change and this is how we're moving forward with the change. Our assistant superintendent also is in charge of curriculum, and has been in attendance and helping throughout this whole entire process as well. When we need to figure out how we're going to fund certain things, it's helpful to have administration on board. And we've been able to share just a very, very brief overview of what the changes are to our admin during an admin team as well. So we've touched the awareness for them, so they know that we're working on things.
It makes a big difference though, that awareness piece of getting their buy-in, and then like you said, the teachers need support. So I think that's definitely a key part there. We've talked some about the importance of having a team, having different representatives so people can share out what is happening. Our next question is, how have you continued to use the tool after your initial review? I think you both kind of touched on this some too.
We are, obviously not finished with our implementation of the tool, because we need to continue to go back to it and add, revise, change. We have a lot more to add to it as we keep working through it. So it's definitely a work in progress.
Ours is a work in progress as well. We'll need to figure out where our gaps are and how we're going to cover those gaps. And that's probably the biggest thing we have moving forward, is figuring out the gaps and how we're going to address those.
Yeah, and then just that constant remembering to go back, which is always a piece in education. And then our last question for both of you is, what is some advice that you'd give to a school before they begin this process?
Probably just don't be it's overwhelming at first, but just take it in bits and chunks and work your way through it slowly. And yeah, get a good team behind you as far as knowing who can support you and who can lend an ear and have some advice of what to try.
Mhm. Yeah, it is overwhelming at first. Be patient. Clone Corey and have her join you.
Definitely.
What we all want.
Understand, just keep in mind that your knowledge is far above the knowledge of other people likely in the room when you're just introducing it to teachers. You have to gain that base of understanding before you can even begin to dive in. I think the first time we had our K-4 teachers, Corey and I were concerned that, and planful, we did not want to overwhelm them. And they probably were a little bit overwhelmed, but by the time we met the second time and worked through some more things, they were feeling a lot better about the discussion. It's that one more thing on my plate, and how am I possibly going to figure this out? So we wanted to relieve that stress and pressure from them. Having the right people on the team. Be careful when you start your team. Make sure you have the right people in place, and add people if you need to along the way. We did not have immediately our K-12 librarians, because we've been doing a lot of work with them as far as changing what their program looks like, but they're invited to be around now, and they may be a big piece of the puzzle in filling in some of the gaps that we have.
I think that ability to be flexible with your plans is so important. And again, it's always a great goal to not overwhelm teachers. Take those little bits and chunks, and you both have done a nice job of showing how you've started with that and grown to have an impressive example that you can keep using at your building. So thank you to both of you for sharing your wisdom and just how that process looked. Our plan to continue tonight is that we're actually going to divide into 2 rooms. So we'll have one room with curriculum, like coaches and administrators. And then the other room is going to be K-12 educators. And Heather and Peggy are going to split up to go to both of the rooms. We thought maybe a small group would be nice to be able to have a little bit of the informal time to chat and talk about how these tools would look, or just give you like 10 to 15 minutes to just go through it on your own. If you want to make a copy and kind of take a stab at what it might look like for you, that would be the time to do it too. So Samantha is setting up our breakout rooms. I believe once they are ready, actually they look like they might be right now. Down on the bottom of your Zoom menu, you should have the breakout rooms icon, and then you can select which room you would like to go to, either the K-12 teachers or the curriculum admin team. And we will come back, what should we say, like 35, 37? Come back around 37 after the hour. We kind of see how things are going in our room.
Okay. Do you all have specific questions for Heather? Well, we give you a second. Chris Full is here outside in the beautiful weather. I should have done that. Chris, we know is an Iowa educator from our group. Chris, does your district use this tool?
Yes, Corey, we went through the training and everything with a team of 6. And then we worked on it at our in-service. And we had the teachers work on it as a team, not individually. So by each grade band, they worked on it and completed it. But I guess if I had a question for Heather now, it would be, okay, what are your next step recommendations? Once we've got everything filled out, we can see where there's holes, we can see where we're doing okay. And I just wonder, how do you evaluate that and decide where you're going next?
We're using, so after we have found all of our holes, which were a lot, we're using, so our high school librarian and two high school teachers went to training last summer to get ready to teach the course that's going to be implemented this coming fall at the high school. So that's going to help fill some of those gaps. And then I'm also going through trainings currently in the summer to do some more elementary side of coding training and getting ideas of how that can help fill our gaps on the elementary side of things. And then the middle school, we're still working with those teachers to figure out what we can change and adjust and to best do that.
But to clarify, in Iowa, the requirements for next fall are for the high school and for districts to have a plan. So our elementaries and our middle schools have a whole nother year to start planning and implementing. So they're not behind. In fact, like districts like Chris's and Heather's have kind of jumped on early and are really ahead of the game. But so they've got a year to kind of figure all this out. So that's a good thing, I think.
We had implemented the computer science principles and computer science discoveries in our high school. And then now we have a computer science exploratory class in the middle school. So that's our 5 through 8. But where I feel like we need to beef things up is the elementary. So like Corey said, it's good to know that it doesn't have to all happen next year. It can, be added gradually. So.
Yes. And we're just adding a gifted and talented position that this year did not get filled for next school year. And that's a 3/4 time gifted and talented, 1/4 time math assistance position. So we're checking with that new teacher that's getting hired to see if they'd be interested also to help piggyback off of my training to help implement some of those standards with her integration K4 as well. We have not got confirmation if she's going to help us or not, but we're putting it out there as an option. Hopefully she's young, so maybe she'll want to jump on board.
Candy, anything helps.
Yes.
I had a question. Is there any advice for when there's holes? Like in Minnesota, our Department of Ed does not recommend curriculum, so they'll bend over backwards because legally they can't. So when you guys found a hole, what were some like common resources you went to? Was it like code.org courses, or what were the kind of go-to at the top, maybe 3 that come to mind? Like, we have a big hole here, we need to start filling it before you have to go write your own stuff, because there's lots of resources. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
We've done a lot of code.org. We've done the Google Applied Skills Lab, Applied Skills, is that what it's called, to help fill some of the middle school. Not very much of it, but some of it. Trying to think of what else there is that I've done. I have a lot of just coding and robotics in my library that I've received through Iowa STEM grants. So I have lots of different types of robots and stories to put with them. So that has helped as well on the K2 younger side. Corey, what would you say?
It's the same in Iowa, the Department of Ed and then the AEAs, which are like our regional education agencies, are not allowed to recommend curriculum. But I can consult with districts. And our team has gotten $1.5 million in grants in the last 2 years. So we vet programs that we believe are high quality, and then teachers can go through professional development, and then it's up to their district. So we tend to choose programs that have free curriculum for that loophole. I would say what I feel like my role is working with folks like Heather and Chris to say like, how are the things you're doing working that we can recommend? And then like we're vetting programs and making sure their standards align and that the pedagogy is good, and then making recommendations based on that to districts. Corey, how do you vet material? Oh, sorry. Too many chats. How do we vet materials? Yeah, that's a great question. I taught middle school computer science before I was in this role. We look at standard alignment. I look for pedagogy and equity, and we encourage districts, and we've started using the tech rubric. I'll try to grab a link. It's from, is it ring a bell for anybody? It's out of, I think it's the University of Chicago. It's teaching, equity, and curriculum. And so it's a tool that helps you kind of look at like, is it aligned to the standards? Is it inclusive? Does it have curriculum that is accessible to all students? And then the C is around pedagogy. It's like, is it collaborative? Things like that. I'm going to grab a link, but that's another tool that we use as well.
I'm in Lexington, South Carolina, but I've been using Carnegie Mellon University's Code Academy and to teach Python, and my kids have loved it. It's definitely upper middle school or high school, but it does have the ability also to use a couple of different languages. And I set up the Spanish courses for my ESOL kids, and they actually learn to code in Spanish. And so they, by my lowest level ESOL kids were able to actually learn coding by using that as an option.
So Melissa, that's on our menu for our grants this summer. So you just made my day, because that was one we felt like for all those reasons was a great fit. So
it really, I think it does better. And I'm coming from I haven't programmed anything since I was a freshman in college. But I was a business ed major, or business ed certified, and got hired to teach engineering, and then ended up having to also teach some of the computer science. So I was brand new to Python, and I've been able to keep up and keep ahead of my kids using Code Academy. So it is easily accessible in my mind and my brain for somebody who has a little bit of experience. But I do think it does better teaching what I call functional programming, which is actual programming, versus teaching the theory of programming, which I think CodeHS and Code.org do a little bit better.
Okay. Awesome.
So I think it depends on what you want from our students, for your students. But most of mine will go on to AP Computer Science, which I feel like is heavy on the theory more so than the functional. So we try to get them to learn how to program in Python, send them to AP for the function, and then to computer programming too.
That's awesome. Melissa, there's a question in there about CodeHS. CodeHS is a approved curriculum through our Department of Ed, has a grant program that's got like a menu of options for K-5, 6, 8, and 9, 12, and CodeHS is on that. All of the Code.org curriculums are on that as well. So I've heard good stuff about CodeHS too. So I think, I can't remember now who asked about the vetting. The other thing I think we try to think about in my AEA role is like that scope and sequence, like Melissa is saying, is like, what if you're brand new to this, what's a good fit? If you're trying to grow your program, what's the next step? So like that Carnegie Mellon Python for us is a next step. A lot of our middle schools do discoveries from Code.org, but we had teachers starting to say like, okay, what do I do now? And so we felt like Python was a nice transition from some of that block-based to text-based, but I'm with you. I like the functionality, and I like that kids can troubleshoot with that graphics, the interface, so they can immediately see if their code worked or not with that graphics tool. So, oh, that's good to know, Henry. Yeah, we've worked with Erin Cawley just getting stuff set up, and she's been phenomenal. She's been so supportive and flexible. So, okay, other questions for Heather or Chris? And Chris didn't introduce herself. Chris is an awesome computer science teacher. She teaches secondary. If you have other questions for them about how their districts have used the audit tool, because I think we've got like 3 more minutes.
I don't know if anybody does the VEX robotics, but I also do that at my school. And they actually also have a Python platform that you can code the VEX robotics in Python. So our school has fully moved to Python for our programming needs.
Corey, quick question. Do you guys work with Amazon feature engineers?
We don't at the AEA level, but I don't know if Chris or Heather do.
No, we don't.
Making a list though. Henry, is there anything you can share about that?
Well, I just know that back when Shana and I were still with our district, that was a big push because we had a middle school presence. We're about to get into high school, but we're really striving to get elementary K through 5. And they approached us and had the curriculum support, training, PD, the whole bit. So we were excited about it, but then she and I took off. So,
okay.
But they've got a really strong program. Their support's excellent as well.
Okay, I'm making a list. There is a question, resource ideas for classroom elementary teachers, any districts that aren't using media teachers or a specialist to make this happen?
Good question. We are using, myself mostly so far, for media specialists. We're getting it K4. Our thoughts were to, once we have all of the standards broken down and do all the legwork of it, we thought we could take it to classrooms and explain. We have not done the big explain it all to the K4 teachers because we know there's going to say, nope, no time, not going to happen. So we're trying to do the back end work of it to get it ready and then be like, Heather will teach this or come in and help co-teach so that you can move into that role possibly to get them excited. But yeah, we're doing all the legwork for them to try to make it ease their transition, but I'm not sure how that's going to work.
Oh, Melissa shared a link in the chat. Thank you. Some of our districts are looking at Boot Up PD for integration, but I would say, Mark, that's like the $1 million question is like, how do we do it? And so we're figuring it out. Some of my colleagues and I took that audit tool, and what we're trying to do is plug in lesson resources that go with those standards. It's not done, so I'm not ready to share that at all, but that's a question we get a lot, and I don't have an awesome answer yet. Personally, I'm a fan of the creative curriculum from MIT that goes along with Scratch, because I think it gives kids choice and voice. So that's something we try to coach on, but having a curriculum or if there were a silver bullet, we'd all be using it, right? So all we can continue to do is connect and collaborate. Oh, and then Jay Richmond said microbits are working. I do love microbits too. To tie to math. That's awesome. Thanks.
No, I appreciate that because I feel like elementary teachers you all should do this, and a lot of them say no.
Second. Okay. Now we can go. So it started with the standards progression, like the CSTA standards progression. We used that as the model. And then from there, it's kind of evolved a couple of different iterations of how it can look like for districts. And then kind of how Corey shared too, like some districts, the elementary ones especially, have broken it down to that next step, which I feel like would be a good one. Like we get a complete one of those with the I can statements. That would be another good one to share.
That one's a lot like a crosswalk, so it's showing them I eventually have to do that too. So
Yeah,
adding it to my list.
I really like what Monticello has done. And I'm not the person that's from Monticello. I'm the Marion one. So I could see us diving deeper and moving in more of that direction too with ours as we keep building. Sorry, husbands.
No problem. Chelsea, did you see the link was in the chat somewhere? I can try to find it. Okay, here's the progression chart. That kind of was where it started. Copy paste is not.
Yeah, so we have standards that were passed in like 2018.
Okay.
So we're going to be revising those, but we are creating brand new standards for 9th through 12th grade. And it can't be the CT part pathway or AP or anything like that. So no, anything you all have, I would love to just look at because it's a little overwhelming, to be honest. It's a big undertaking. So, I mean, I'm very excited, but it's a big undertaking.
And you might have said it earlier, and I'm sorry, what's your role again?
I am the curriculum and instructional specialist at the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network.
Okay.
And we are a part of, they get contracted out. Basically, we're like a partner with the Tennessee Department of Education.
Okay.
So we do their STEM initiatives.
Okay.
So
do you provide like a lot of the trainings as well for that, or
pretty much all of them? Yeah. We do all of those trainings. So that's going to be our standards training is going to be next year because we're hoping we have to get our standards revised by the fall of this year. So hopefully by next summer, we'll have a pretty solid standards training.
And that would be something Corey would be like, make sure you get her contact information because she's got a great like standards training, both like an in-person led one that she facilitates with districts. And then they AEAs have also come up with like standards, a self-paced course too.
That would be, yeah. I wrote her name down.
Yep.
To try to get her information.
Because they've got a wealth, like our AEA, like I was fortunate to have the AEAs, which are the area education agencies. And there's 9 of them in the state. And so they each have different consultants that work with the teachers in their region. And so Corey and her team, so Corey has a statewide team of computer science consultants that are really kind of boots on the ground, helping districts. They're the ones that lead like our script workshops.
Yeah, I think picking Corey's brain about the script workshops, I didn't emphasize that enough, but that at least gave our team a scheduled time where we knew we were going to meet, and we all know how important that is, and we all agreed and dedicated the time to do that. And it's really what spearheaded much of the good discussions that have happened.
Can you talk more about like what the script workshop is?
Were you in on those, Allison?
Tina, do you want to share a little bit?
I can interrupt. I apologize. I have to shut my camera off. I'm working off a satellite, so my signal's really bad. But I run script workshops in Wisconsin. I'm a CS4L script facilitator. So basically we look at 5 components. We take a look at teacher capacity, leadership, instructional materials, and then communities and partners. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm looking to see if I'm frozen or not. But basically what we do is the school district teams do self-assessment in those 5 areas, and then based on their self-assessment, they set goals for like the 3-month, 6-month, and a 12-month goal. And we've been doing check-ins quarterly. Our first cohort is just wrapping up their first 2 years of check-ins. So it's really helping districts build their capacity and move forward.
Do you guys have someone in Tennessee?
I was going to ask Tina, who would be a good contact at CS for All?
I do not have their name right in front of me, but I can find it for you.
I was going to say, I can give you we have one of our board leaders works for CS for All, and I can give you her name. And I don't know if she'd be the one that would connect you, but she would at least be able to say, here's on our team who you can go to get training.
Just to, yeah, even if like, if it was just so I can learn more about it, that would be great.
I will get that. It looks like right now I have her Gmail.
So yeah, if you go to Allison's, the link that she put in the chat, that will take you to their website.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
I think it would be a really great tool for districts. Especially going forward.
The districts that I've worked with have found it very beneficial.
And yes, sounds like Wisconsin has a somewhat similar structure too. Like we had someone within the AEAs, all of them were trained to be CS script facilitators. That way we could kind of divide and conquer and be able to have a further reach too.
Chelsea, could I ask you a question?
Sure.
When you are talking about revising your 912 standards, are there specific areas that you're focusing on or you're growing at that high school level?
So we're actually revising our K-12 CS standards. We are writing specifically brand new standards for 9th through 12th grade because we now have a graduation requirement for every incoming freshman by 2024 to take a 1 CS course. And so the standards are going to be around a non-computer science pathway students course. And so we're revising the ones we already have for K-8, and then 912 is brand new standards that are not going to be like the CTE or the AP standards that we already follow. So it's, it's quite a bit. And we only have
in Wisconsin, we have standards. Yeah. In Wisconsin, we have standards that are K-12. The 912 are not based on the AP courses. So that might be something for you to peek at.
You said Wisconsin?
Yep. Wisconsin,
oh, that'd be great.
Does. Yep.
Yeah, I've been trying to find other states that already have them and kind of looking at them for examples. We meet with our committee May 10th. And so I've been trying to pull samples for them to look at.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So get there, like I said earlier, it's just step by step. It is nice that you're starting off and there are good models for you to be able to refer to as well.
Well, I saw this on the web, for like the Zoom, the leadership or whatever series, and I got really excited. I was like, oh, this is perfect timing
Good.
for what we need to do. So
good to have you. Anything else? I think we'll head back in another minute or two. Chelsea, are you going to the CSTA conference?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Good. What about you, Peggy? Have you signed up?
I have not signed up.
But
I am debating about it.
Well, do it. Corey, I think, is going to share. So Iowa, we were fortunate, we've got a STEM council that gets a lot of funding through the state and then also does a lot of partnership with private funders. But they are sponsoring 100 spots for Iowa teachers to go. And it's awesome scholarship, travel, lodging, CSTA Plus membership. So we can get people for a year. So Peggy, I think Corey said there's like 5 spots left. So get on that wait list as soon as she shares, or get on that list as soon as she shares it. And then if you can't come, you can back out. But
that's true. That's a good way to approach it.
Yeah.
It's really fun. And it's in Chicago this year.
Chicago will be great. Jason, where are you based out of?
I live in Pinson, Alabama, which is a suburb of Birmingham.
Well, Alabama's a good state to be able to talk about some things that you guys are doing, kind of.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar. I was born and raised in Northern California.
Okay.
And so I'm like a recent Alabama transplant. So they do have state standards, and they have, I'm not sure what their state requirement is, but there are a lot of districts that require CS courses. So they do a lot of good work here.
Awesome.
Yeah, I have their stuff downloaded too, because we also just did an endorsement pathway for CS. So that just launched this past month.
Cool.
And we're running through, I've got 60 teachers that are set to get their endorsement in May.
That's awesome. That's one that we've kind of seen a lag, and it's been some debate of it's not required. And I don't know, like, it sounds like it'll be a while before it's required because trying to build capacity. But I think it's just one extra step for teachers that doesn't have a ton of traction. People that go through it enjoy it, but.
We started with an employment standard in our state.
Okay.
And so if you completed the code.org CS discoveries or principles training, you got an employment standard. And so this is just the progression of that. So now we're getting rid of that. We've added this extra layer, and now you get the actual endorsement.
And that would be helpful. Like ours, you have to go through a higher ed university in order to get it. And I think that's a barrier.
You should, let me pull up the bill. You should read the bill. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Alabama does something similar where you can get endorsed for like specific classes or courses, so like CSP, go to an APSI or something. So then you can teach APCSP, but not like
not all.
It helps because then you can get people in the classroom.
Yeah.
And I think this specific, like it's what the teachers are doing.
This one's only computer science. So even if you're K6, you could be certified K12, but only for computer science.
Okay.
So
yeah, I'll take a look at that.
Yeah.
And before we get pulled back in, I did put Ren and Corey's email. All right, well, welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you had some great discussions in your groups. Before we move on to our next thing, anybody have a share out or something they want to share with our whole group? I'm not going to wait too long. I feel like it's always hard at a weeknight. So one of the things we've been doing in our chapter meetings all year is that we have been referring to this Jamboard that goes over the CS equity standards. And so it's a look at the teacher standards of how are we equitably offering and different practices that we're doing to have computer science in our classroom. So each month or each meeting, we look at a different standard. And then in the Jamboard, we just post ideas of what could you use for that tool or what that might look like. I think Samantha looks like is grabbing that link. So she'll put that in the chat, and then I'll give you a few minutes to go out to the Jamboard, use little sticky notes, add some of your ideas about how, it's taking a second, but how you can use data for decision making to improve equity. What does that look like in a computer science classroom? I like the range that we've got here on this board as we're reading through that all the way from curriculum as well as to like specific to student data and looking at enrollment, being intentional with that. Accessibility is a huge one, something I think we're getting better at as Iowans, but it definitely has been a learning curve. for those of you that are joining us, feel free to look back. This is our last chapter meeting of the school year. But you are welcome to look back and see kind of how this has evolved throughout the year and the other standards that we've looked at as well. Some great ideas here, though. I think just important to keep in mind how we can do this, both curriculum, students, technology, and accessibility make a difference. And that's going to bring us to the conclusion of our chapter meeting. So that's all the planned portion. Corey had a quick announcement that she was going to share just about the CS conference or the CSTA National Conference. And then the remainder of the time, you're welcome to stay on and chat and just socialize. Or if you have other things to do, we understand that as well.
So if you're not aware, the National Conference is in Chicago. We have 100+ folks from Iowa signed up to go that we're aware of. So yeah, so we're really, really excited. So a reminder that for all of you, the national scholarship to the conference closes April 24th. So get those applications in. And then for our Iowa friends, if you're a teacher or instructional coach or a leader, we have an Iowa specific scholarship, and that will close April 30th. We're asking Iowa classroom teachers to apply for both of those scholarships. And then we're going to work with Jason and Henry, and we're going to fill some gaps from a wait list for our teachers that don't get the national scholarship. So please make sure you do that. And I will grab links and put them in the chat once I'm done talking. And then specific to our Iowa friends, the AEAs were awarded $1 million in grants. Yay. Also, okay. So anyway, we've got wait lists and opportunities for you to sign up. Half of these trainings have to be done by June 30th because of the funding cycle. The other half we have until September 15th. And so if there's something on the screen right now that you're really interested in participating in, you're going to click the link on this. Nope, you're not, because you don't have this. I'm going to put the link in the chat for you to click on. So that you can go check out the programs and sign up for the wait list for any spots. These all include the facilitation and teacher stipend for your time, whether it's asynchronous or synchronous work. So we hope that we can get lots of teachers K-12 trained this summer. And then I know that Samantha is going to put a link in the chat for a survey that Jason asked us to share. Oh, yep. Oh, Jason put it in there. Thanks, Jason. We had it on our list. I promise.
She put it too. I just
okay.
doubled down.
I was first.
Yeah, she did it. I was just trying to help her.
Thanks, Jason.
The Iowa scholarship link is much more important. If you're here from Iowa, fill that out.
Yeah. If you're not from Iowa, you can come to Iowa. You can move here.
Or just look for us at the CSTA National Conference.
Yes.
We would love to chat with all of you.
I'm very excited.
Maybe we could say, can we have a link to the Iowa meetup for our friends?
That's what I was going to say. I wonder if
come and join us
get
at
some.
meetup.
Yeah, the Engagiacs will join you at the Iowa meetup.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be cool.
It'd be great.
Oh, Mark, you're nearby, huh? Very cool.
Yes,
David's
David.
Gonna stop at, yes. Are you driving I-80?
I think it counts.
Hey, we have plenty of teaching openings in Iowa if you want to look, just like everywhere else. But
you could pick the state you want to teach in this year.
Oh, of course.
I know you could.
Oh, Forest
Nice.
City is going to be quite a drive.
Mm-hmm. We're also hosting our first CSPD week right after CSTA conference. So anyone going through, if you
Chicago,
want
Des Moines.
stop and say hi.
And then you could just stay for Ragbri.
Yeah, make a month of it.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Well, this is really fun.
Yeah, thanks for letting
us.
us invite our friends from across the country, Jason and Henry.
Oh, this was incredible. This was great.
Great job, guys. Great work.
Yeah,
Thanks.
fantastic.
Peggy and Heather, we really appreciate your time and thank you. We also recognize you might want to go. So if you would like to go, that's fine too. So.
I do want to see all these links in the chat at some point, so.
I will get them, Peggy, and then I will put them in the YouTube link.
Oh, good idea.
Perfect.
Or in
Thanks.
that description.
Good luck, everyone, on your endeavors in CS.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for a really interesting session.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Oh,
Billy,
there's
you got here just in time.
Just in time to say bye.
there is
Just the social part.
there is
The
a
Sacramento meeting must have just ended, right?
Yeah, the happy hour.
Yeah.
There is a Minnesota Code Summit I just saw today. I'll put the link in the chat.
Yeah, I can.
May 14th.
Yeah, that's a good one. I see what you're saying. Yeah, our group is May 14th, I believe.
Yes, yes, it is.
So that one nice thing is I'll be presenting there, just 35-minute chunks. So it's a Saturday, people are stressed, pandemic, we're not making you sit through huge sessions, just trying to get a huge outreach. So
That's nice.
Thanks.
It's free too. It's free.
yeah, they've got some funding for that, which is nice. We've got some, not as big a group as you, but you know, that energy and commitment is just as good. So
We started small too.
yeah.
11 people in the bar.
Well, this has been great. Thank you. I actually have in 9 minutes, I'm on the state math standards revision. We're talking CS tonight in 9 minutes.
Good.
So I'm like, oh, guess what I got tonight an hour ago. So
Boom.
serendipity at work here. So
Well, thanks,
Perfect.
Mark. Hopefully we'll get to see you at the conference. It was nice to have you be so active in the chat and in the breakout room. So thank you.
oh, these are all great things. Like I was cut off at the one part, but I feel like in elementary, everybody feels like we're magicians and can always integrate everything. And we sometimes are, but sometimes we're not because of just sheer time or energy or effort, or things are messy to integrate. You know, it's hard to balance out. And then sometimes people are like, no, this doesn't fit. So the teachers just opt out. I mean, you can, because we get told so many different things. Sometimes colleagues just say, I'm out, even though you list it out. So the tool is nice because it starts discussions and kind of gets you talking about the work rather than the master schedule or the stress. So I like how you guys shared out the behind the scenes stuff. That's very appreciated. So it seems like you guys are kind of opening it up to the real conversations, not like the end product discussion which everybody shares on social media, or the beginning, we're going to do it, it's going to be awesome. Like you're just sharing the meat of the sandwich. So that was great. So just kudos to you. I really appreciate sharing out and finding out with us on Twitter. So that was nice.
Yeah.
So
All right. Well, thanks, Mark.
yeah, only 7 miles away. So if you look carefully, I'm waving at you. I'm just not far at all. I better get to my next meeting, but thank you all for sharing so openly. That was great.
Bye, Mark.
Bye. You're welcome.